This episode has been made possible by the BC Ale Trail. Arrive thirsty, leave inspired at thebcaletrail.ca. Welcome to the Cascadian Beer Podcast. My name's Aaron and I'm a Cascadian. In this podcast series, I profile unique breweries of Cascadia, a region that has a strong presence in the international beer scene. Cascadia is a bioregion in the Pacific Northwest on the North American continent. It's made up of the U.S. states of Washington and Oregon, as well as the Canadian province of British Columbia. Today, I find myself in Vernon BC at Marten Brewery and Pub. They opened their doors in 2015, and they were voted one of British Columbia's best tasting rooms. The space is large, and it's open with the brewery visible from almost every vantage point in the pub. Recently, the team started to create things other than just beer. They have a Kombucha brand called UnderGround Beverages as well. There's 2 interviews in this episode. In a little bit, we'll hear from the brewmaster, but I started the conversation off with the owner.
Stefan Marten, and I would be one of the directors of the Marten Brewing Company.
Great. And that's obviously where the name comes from.
Yes, it is. Yeah. Yeah. It was, we Googled a lot of things and we couldn't find a name that we liked. So we figured, let's just go with a name like a lot of the traditional breweries kind of thing. So,
and we're in a brew pub in Vernon. You guys are the only craft beer thing in Vernon, correct?
Yeah, for the most part. Yeah. We always wished that somebody would come join us, but looks like we're kind of left alone here in the North Okanagan, but yeah, we're the only guys here right now.
Right. And how long have you been open?
We started building in 2014, but we're brewing beer in 2015. So
right. And what was the inspiration behind the project then?
We lived in Pearl and I lived in the Okanagan for quite a while now. And we lived in Kelowna prior to here, and we came to Vernon quite a bit. We were doing real estate at the time. Always wanted to open a brewery. That was kind of always in the forecast to do. And just wasn't sure where to do it. And we kind of stumbled upon the location that we're at right now. It's a long story how we got there, but...
well, we have time.
But yeah, so we basically saw the location and thought it was ideal for a brewery for sure. And especially because it's in the heart of Vernon, we thought, well, you know what, this could be absolutely perfect for us. So we just started pitching away at it and it all kind of lined up and off we went.
So how many seats are in this brew pub?
Well, we can accommodate just under 300. That's kind of where our max is.
It's a big, beautiful open space. So,
lots of room, yeah. And we have the neighboring restaurant as well, which is we call the Naked Pig. And there's obviously more room over there as well. And we serve our beers and that kind of thing. But there's definitely a lot of room in the building for a big group, that's for sure. We do a lot of Christmas parties and things like that, so we fill her up pretty good.
So what's been the community's response then to you guys opening? Like, how supportive is the community of having you be the brew pub here?
It's been great. From the beginning, it's been... Vernon's not really, well, I shouldn't say it is now. It's become a craft beer place too. But in the beginning, there was a lot of people who didn't try IPAs, didn't want to go down that road. So there's a lot of educating to do. We had a lot of fun doing that. I love seeing all ages come in, from their early 20s to seniors all the way up. They're doing the flights and they're trying all the different styles. So it's been actually well received and we get a lot of feedback and it's been kind of fun to grow with the community that way.
Right. And who helped you in designing the brew pub?
Oh, there wasn't really much help. It was Pearl who did everything on the design kind of thing. So she has the vision of how, and we went to a handful of breweries and brew pubs before we built this. And our kind of feeling at the time, this is back in 2013, 2014, was that most of the breweries are kind of hidden. And we just love the brewing process. And I thought it was really cool. Pearl and I always talked about it'd be cool to showcase that. So we kind of built the brewery first, and then we built all the seating and all the convention space above it, so you could see us brewing from any seat in the building. We made sure that you could not miss any part of that if you wanted to see it, and it's a good opportunity to see the process as well as see us try to work a little bit. So
and know that you're actually making beer here and you're not just calling yourselves a brew pub.
That's right.
Yeah. And so with that, then, I mean, you've kind of added a new thing into your lineup recently. We're enjoying it right now. Your kombucha. How did that project start?
Well, I always make the joke, we can't drink beer all day. So we, Pearl was trying to get us a little bit more effective on the work schedule. So we always call it the hangover cure, actually. But it's, Pearl started making it actually at home, and we brought it down. A lot of our staff started drinking it to start off with, and they really liked it. So we thought, well, let's put it on tap. So we did that. And then once we really got a good response with our locals here and everybody wanted to have it on tap, we got more and more questions about putting it elsewhere. So we started going out from there.
Right.
Yeah.
And now it's quite the wide range of what you mean by out there. Right?
Yeah, we've pretty much in the last year we connected through all BC, so that was pretty big for us. It did a lot for us. We did some kind of cool styles with it, and just recently we're going across the nation with it, so it's pretty cool.
And that's all made here, right? Like
it's all made here. Yeah,
not being contracted by anybody.
Negative. Yeah. No, we have a pretty big basement, and hence it's called underground. It's all underground, and we do a lot of work there, and it's been kind of a fun journey. The whole process has been a lot of fun for us, but this one's definitely been an interesting ride for us.
If somebody was wanting to go down the path of opening up like their own brew pub, what would be some advice that you could give them?
For brew pub, it's a very tricky question, because the beer is kind of part one, and the tougher part is the food. It's always the food requires a lot of hands, and you can make a great beer and have bad food, and to get the combination to eat balance out is always the tricky part. So I do I've always respected a lot of the breweries that have food trucks that let the guys do what they do good, and they kind of have that corner and they do their beer. And I always thought that was really cool. But doing a brew pub definitely is a lot of hands on deck. We have a pile of staff, and it definitely is a lot more work than just...
And a full-fledged restaurant next door too.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. So we have, the 2 restaurants and the convention center. So we do that as well. So, I mean, that really piles on the food, but it's, for the beer and for a brew pub, I think at the end of the day, what I actually really like about it, one of my favorite things is that because we do food, we can pair a pile of different beers with the food we make, right? And we use a lot of the beer for the ingredients and stuff like that. So that's always kind of neat to play with.
Yeah, sweet. And if somebody was wanting to come to Vernon, what else is there to visit apart from you guys?
Yeah, we have a lot of really cool things here. As far as we have a great cidery up on the hill. We have a really world-renowned distillery that people like to obviously swing by and say hi to. It's just beautiful to check those guys out. I always think Vernon is one of the cooler places in the Okanagan. I'm not just saying it because we live here biasedly, but we have a ski mountain 20 minutes away. And I mean, that it's hard to beat that. It's like an amazing ski mountain 20 minutes away. We have Okanagan Lake. We have Kalamalka Lake, obviously one of the most beautiful lakes in North America. It's just really, really cool. And then it's just the hiking, and it's just endless countryside here. And of course, we're close to everything we want to be close to. You know what I mean? So it's a pretty hidden gem.
Thank you so much for your time today.
Yeah,
really
absolutely.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
That was part 1 of my conversation with Marten Brewery and Pub. Before I talk to their brewmaster, I just want to tell you about the BC Ale Trail. You can discover what's going on with the craft beer scene throughout British Columbia by visiting bcaletrail.ca. The BC Ale Trail showcases many parts of the province, and on the website you'll find recommended itineraries for each region, a comprehensive list of every craft brewery in BC, a calendar with beer events, and a blog with lots of great stories. The regional ale trails include local breweries, pubs, and restaurants, along with other activities the area has to offer. So whether you're planning a weekend or just wanting to be a tourist in your own backyard, let the BC Ale Trail guide you to your next beer adventure. Arrive thirsty, leave inspired at bcaletrail.ca. In this episode, I'm in Vernon, BC, visiting Marten Brewery and Pub. We heard from the owner, Stefan, earlier, and now I sat down with their brewmaster.
My name's Joe Strickland. I'm the brewmaster here at Marten Brewing Company in Vernon, BC.
Cool. And how long have you been brewing here?
Since day one, so about 3.5 years.
All right, cool. And how did beer find you?
Man, I suppose it started with just a love of quality food and cooking, and came across the brewing program at Niagara College, applied to it, and got into the second year of, from when they started the program. I think they had about 2,400 applicants, and they took 24 people. We had to write a little essay to get in, and so I was very fortunate to get in and experience that.
Right. Were you doing any home brewing before that course at all?
A little bit, yeah. I did quite a bit of just reading and research before I kind of got into it. But yeah, still remember my first home brew was one of the best beers I've ever made.
Yeah, that was kind of my experience too.
Nice.
And then I'm like, what happened after that?
Yeah,
but,
right.
Yeah. What was your first beer?
I think it was like a Marten or Vienna lager type beer.
Yeah, I did a Munich lager.
Nice.
Extract kit.
Yeah. I did it all grain.
Okay.
So hence all the research. I just kind of went for it.
Right. Sweet. And so then, how long ago was that then? Like,
that was about going on 7 years.
Right. Cool.
Yeah.
All right. So, after you graduated the program, were you working anywhere else, or was this kind of your first gig?
Well, in between my 2 years of the program, I worked at the Jasper Brew Pub in Jasper, Alberta. Great experience. And that's kind of what brought me out west after the program as well.
Right. Cool. And so then how did you get in contact with the team here? Like, how did they recruit you?
Well, originally, I moved from Ontario to Kelowna, never having been there before. Just kind of heard it was a cool place, and got a job over the phone with Tree Brewing Company.
Yep.
Was part of the brew team there for a year and a half. And then just with my experience and education, I wanted to take on a little bit, of my own thing and do my own recipes. Just saw this place was opening up and took the leap.
Right. And the system here is like part of the whole experience at the brew pub, which is awesome because
absolutely, it's a beautiful space.
Oh, it's so beautiful. And some brew pubs, they do kind of tuck it away in the back corner.
Yeah.
It's just like, well, what's the point? I kind of want to see,
yeah.
But do you feel like you're in a bit of a fishbowl there, or is it
slightly? I tend to brew in the mornings when the pub's not open.
Right.
Yeah. So,
but there's an interesting design with the whole system. It's mostly just complete gravity, right? Like you're not really.
Yes, we have a stacked kind of mash tun on top of HLT. That's the hot water tank. And so when you're lautering, it's gravity. Yeah. We use pump for sparging,
right,
and transfer.
And then it's fermentation here, and I was told that it's a floating floor, so that's why you need to have everything spaced out because of the weight.
Right. Yeah. It's all engineered. We can't really squeeze any more tanks in there.
Right. And then all the serving tanks are underground.
That's right? Correct. Yeah. So we do transfers to the serving tanks by gravity as well.
So
yeah. With a closed loop kind of CO2 loop system.
Sweet. It just sounds so efficient.
Yeah, it really is.
So what is the actual size then of the brew house then?
It's a 7-barrel, we make about 1,000 liters in the kettle.
Sweet.
Yeah.
And then what were the core beers that you opened with? I
believe we had all kind of German inspired slightly because of the consultant that kind of set up the first brews, and the owners themselves have a little German heritage. Yeah. So we had a Pilsner, Lager, Red Ale, and our infamous BC Bud IPA, and maybe a Hefeweizen as well.
All right. And then what styles did you start to bring in and introduce recently?
I think right away I kind of spruced up the IPA. Just kind of went a little paler, a little juicier, as opposed to malty and piney, I suppose.
Yeah. What's been the response from the community? Like, how did the beer sales go here?
It's been great. I mean, there's not too many kind of cool places to hang out in Vernon, so I think the city really needed a place like this, and we're still the only true craft brewery in town.
Right. And do you package your product too?
We do, yeah. We were doing cans for a while. We kind of ceased that since we're doing so much kombucha on the canning machine. Right. We don't want to risk any cross-contamination.
Oh, yeah.
And but we do bombers. That's a separate bottling machine. Growlers to go, of course.
Right. So when did the kombucha program start then?
Man, it's got to be a year and a half, 2 years or so. We kind of started it up. Now we have grocery contracts, and that's going pretty big.
Right. So
yeah.
Taking off again with a second product. I mean, that's pretty
exactly
exciting.
Yeah. So it's all very comparable and interesting. Slightly different kind of fermentation, but it's all in the realm of brewing and really into it. Yeah.
So being the only true craft brewery here in Vernon, where do you go for inspiration in terms of coming up with some new styles? And
my brother's actually into home brewing. He lives in Edmonton. He's always sending me stuff, right? And, the Alberta beer scene is kind of blowing up. So they're doing all kinds of crazy stuff.
Yeah.
And my brother tends to collect, yeast that he starts from bottles and that kind of thing. So I kind of have a little collection going on.
Sweet.
And other than that, just Instagram, that kind of thing. I don't find myself at the liquor store too much. So,
but I imagine you venture down to Kelowna every now and again too.
Oh
right?
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Know some of the guys around the scene there. And Kelowna's got a great little beer scene going on. Lots of new breweries opening up. It's really exciting.
Yeah. So if somebody was wanting to make better beer, what would be some practical tips that you could give them in making better beer?
Read a book on water chemistry.
Right.
Beer is about, 95% water. And so it really has a big effect on the final beer flavor and just the mouth feel and all of that.
Cool. Well, great. Well, thank you so much for your time, man.
Yeah, not a problem.
Big thank you to Stefan and Joe for their time. Really, really appreciate it. I was on my way back from a big weekend and, it was really nice to check out their space. And I highly recommend going and checking out the pub. And if you're in Canada, their kombucha is available coast to coast now. So go check that out as well. If this is your first time here and you enjoyed this, please feel free to share this episode and make sure you hit subscribe in your favorite podcast app. That way you'll never miss a future episode. For more information about this podcast series, you can follow us on social media at facebook.com/Cascadian Beer. We're on Twitter at Cascadian Beer and on Instagram at Cascadian Beer Podcast. You can also check out the website. That's cascadian.beer. Thank you so much for your time. I really do appreciate it. And until next time, remember, support your local.